The Atlanta Braves walk off the New York Mets in 10 innings, 5-4, in what feels like it might be the biggest win of the year. Let's talk about it.
This is the Braves Postcast, your instant game reaction for the Atlanta Braves. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, welcome on into the Braves Postcast, part of Locked On Sports Atlanta, where we cover your Atlanta sports teams each and every day. I'm your host, Lindsay Crosby, author of the Braves Today newsletter over at bravestoday.com. You can follow me on social media at Crosby Baseball. That is Jake Mastroianni, host of Locked On Braves. Follow him on social media at shortstopball. And Jake, Braves walk off the Mets 5-4 in 10 innings. And I've got a lot of feelings about this game. My heart is racing. This was a wild one. We're going to get into all the specifics. We're going to get into the pitching. We're going to get into what the offense did or didn't do until late. But first, how big was this win for Atlanta? We talked about the series being important, but to be able to come back the way you did against this excellent bullpen and get a win in extras like this.
Yeah, I thought it was huge. Look, for a team that's cooked, right? I've said that. For a team that's not going to make the postseason, I know many people have said that. Yeah. My heart was racing. I've got a headache from all the anxiety and stress of watching that game, but it was a lot of fun. It felt like it was a fun baseball game, obviously, because we won and the way that we won. But it was huge. And I, to answer your question, I think this is the biggest win of the year. And, to give you coach speak here, every win the rest of the way is the biggest win of the year. And that's just kind of where the Braves are. But the way that you did this one, right? That's what makes it so different and so special. The fact that you were behind 4-1 late against your division rivals, the team that's been running away from the division all year from you. Like you said, a really good bullpen. Reed Garrett's been tremendous for them all season long. And David Peterson was completely just dominating the Braves lineup for most of this game. And you were able to come back and get the walk-off. So like I said, fun is best game of the year for me, easily, that I've had fun, just watching. So just some incredible plays at the end of that game that I know we'll get into. One by, Ronald had a disappointing play in this one, but also had an amazing game-saving one too. So just a lot happening in this game.
Yeah, and I think I do want to start with Ronald Acuna, right? Because this is you can see the strategy now that teams are going to take against the Braves. He was 1 for 2 in this one. They walked him 3 times. And at least one of those was intentional. They just didn't even try. And he can impact the game in so many ways. You mentioned the catch off of Pete Alonso at the wall. I honestly didn't think that it was going to be that close. I thought he was going to be able to get there. He didn't have a great jump on it. But he gets there, he makes the catch, he doubles up Juan Soto, one of a couple different mental errors that the Mets had in this one. But I do want to point out real quick, you could tell how much Ronald wanted to throw out his brother in the 10th inning. I just want to point that out. You could tell he wanted a chance to throw his brother out in the 10th. But this feels like this is what Ronald Acuna Jr. can do for you, how he can impact the game in almost every single respect. But this is also what other teams are going to try and do, is take him out of the game as much as possible.
Yeah, you saw, first batter of the game for the Braves, and Peterson essentially pitched around Acuna. He was pounding the strike zone against everybody except for
with a 2-run lead.
Yeah, and just pitching around Ronald. Even the one out that Ronald made, I believe it went to a 3-2 count. Nothing was really close. And even the pitch that he put into play, it was at the top of the zone. It was going to be, a borderline call there. But yeah, I think you'll see this, especially, no offense to Eli White or Alex Verdugo, but if those are going to be the guys batting second for you in the order, why wouldn't you pitch around Ronald to face one of those guys? Although Eli White had some really good swings tonight and Alex Verdugo had a hit in this one. But I'll get into the defensive plays now for Ronald since we're on him.
Yeah.
He doesn't make great reads. He doesn't get good jumps. We know this about Ronald. He always makes up for it, though, with his closing speed, and he almost did on this one and unfortunately just couldn't. But it was a bad read. And you said the ball from Alonso, you thought it would be an easier catch. I thought that was in the chop house just with Alonso's power, and I've seen him do it so many times. So I didn't get a good read on Tyrone Taylor's ball either. I thought that was just going to be a casual fly ball right to Ronald where he was standing, and so did Ronald. And then that ball just absolutely died and dropped and shallow right field close to the foul line. So again, Ronald just got a terrible read on that one. It's unfortunate, but we'll get to Schwellenbach. I'll talk about that a little bit more later. But we know Ronald doesn't get good reads. He makes up for it with his speed. One thing he's always been fantastic at, though, is that right field wall. How many times have we seen him make that Superman catch up against that right field wall, and then to be able to double off Soto on that too? So just an incredible play, and a risky one too, right? If that does get by him and goes off the wall, Soto's at least at third, if not scoring. So just a do or die play there for Ronald, and he got it done.
And I feel like most of the time he gets those do or die plays. There's every now and then he'll miss one, but for the most part, to your point, at the wall there, he gets those. He does a really good job of reading those. This may be a little like, I don't want to dampen some enthusiasm here. I wasn't really thrilled with the offense in this one until you got past David Peterson. We all knew he was going to get a ton of ground balls, going to make you put balls in play. I wasn't thrilled of the idea of Eli White being in the lineup. I thought Stuart Fairchild was going to get the start against the lefty, but at least it was White over Verdugo because of the speed aspect, right? A lot of ground balls, but Atlanta just can't get anything going off of David Peterson. He gives up 5 hits. 4 of them are singles, and then he gets tagged with that final 3-run double, the only extra base that he gave up there. I think it was in the 7th inning. He gives up the 3 total runs, right? Reed Garrett gives up the actual double. But frustrating at-bats for a lot of the offense, and just weren't really able to get anything done until you get to the bullpen. But that's also the way the Braves have done this year. They've had so many games where they've struggled against the starter, and then they've turned around and they've made it work against sometimes a really good bullpen.
Yeah, we've talked about it a lot on here before, just the fact that sometimes we look back at the end of the games and you have all these close losses, and what is the key? Well, the first 5 innings of the game, they let the starting pitcher just breeze through your lineup and you don't put any pressure on them. And that has led to a lot of these close losses. They've tried to make some of these comebacks late. It's made the game really close. They've had these close losses, but you look back at it and it's because the offense was completely absent for half the game. And you just can't have that. You can't have half of the game you're just non-existent and not into it. And unfortunately, that was the case in this one. But on the fortunate side, you're able to get that big hit later on. But yeah, you're exactly right. There have just been too many games this year where the first 5 innings of the game, the offense has just been completely clueless, lifeless, and let the starting pitcher just breeze through.
Yeah. And to your point also of like half of the game, half the lineup at times also not doing much of anything. You look at the bottom of the order here, Ozzy goes 1 for 4, but Sean Murphy 0 for 4, Michael Harris 0 for 4 with 3 strikeouts. Nick Allen 0 for 2. He does walk, ends up scoring. They pinch hit for him in the 9th. But just one of those situations where they're giving up too many at-bats and too many empty innings and then try to make up for it later. And that's part of the reason why you're trying to get all these comeback wins late.
And one thing I'll say too, to add on to this, those 1 pitch outs in clutch situations. So I think it was the 3rd inning after you had scored the run, Matt Olson got the blue pit, Riley comes up, first pitch, it's a changeup that's left up, and he gets on top of it, rolls over it for a 1 pitch out, and that inning's over. And then the next inning, you get a leadoff base runner, first pitch of the at-bat to Ozzy. What does he do? Roll over one for an easy double play. Those are so maddening and frustrating, those just 1 pitch, easy outs like that when you got the pitcher on the ropes.
Yeah, I make him work a little bit. Make him do something extra to get out of the inning. Don't let him do
or at least if you know he's a ground ball pitcher, look for something up and get under it. Don't get on top of it like that. I mean, if you're going to try to ambush a ground ball pitcher like that, you got to see something up and you've got to be under it. And that just wasn't the case in either of those situations.
Yeah. Is wrapping up the offensive conversation here. Is it fair to say that the MVP of this game actually is, instead of being Austin Riley, is actually Marcell Ozuna for saving the offense from having no outs, bases loaded, and not getting a run by getting that double?
Yeah, I mean, I'm certainly proud of Austin Riley getting it done in a bases loaded situation there with 1 out. He was looking for something that he could get under and drove it. I thought he was going to hit a walk-off grand slam for a second there.
I did too. I thought it was gone.
So, yeah, certainly give him props for that. But, I mean, you're not in that situation if Ozuna doesn't come through. He said the hip's feeling a lot better. We still haven't seen a ton of power from him lately. But, yeah, that's a huge hit. I mean, he's definitely the offensive MVP of this game for me, coming through in the clutch like that. A guy that's, as good as he's been at times this year, he has struggled just like Riley and Olsen in those clutch situations. So to come through in a spot like that, yeah, he's definitely the MVP for me.
Especially after Matt Olson goes down without without putting the ball in the play. I know that there were some iffy calls there and all that, but still something like bases loaded. You got to put the ball in the play. Shout out to, by the way, on the walk-off to Tyrone Taylor for trying to go up and for going out and getting that ball for no reason. 1 out. It doesn't change anything, but shout out to Tyrone Taylor for getting the put out before the game ended. No reason to do it, but it was fine. All right. In just a second, I want to talk about the pitching, the good and the bad. We'll do that next right here on the Braves Postcast. Get the supplies you need from the site made for the skilled trades, Supply House. Whether you're in plumbing, HVAC, or electrical, Supply House is the reliable way to order products online. It's an easy-to-use website packed with helpful resources and the latest product info to help you get the job done right. They have a complete inventory of over 200,000 parts from 400-plus top brands, meaning you'll find exactly what you need delivered fast from coast to coast. If you're a DIYer who needs help with an order, Supply House offers expert support and industry-leading service, so you'll always talk to a real person. And for trade pros looking for an extra edge, their free Trade Master program offers exclusive perks like a dedicated phone line, free shipping, and discounts on every order. Thousands of skilled professionals are already taking advantage, and now it's your turn. Join the Trade Master program today, supplyhouse.com/TM. Start ordering your plumbing, HVAC, and electrical supplies with just a few clicks. Plus, anybody, DIYers and pros alike, can use promo code SH5 for 5% off your first order. That's at supplyhouse.com. Today's episode is also brought to you by our friends at OpenPhone. If you're running a business, say one that does plumbing, HVAC, or electrical, you know that every missed call is money left on the table. Think about the last time you had a service emergency, like a burst pipe. If the first plumber didn't answer, did you wait? No, you just called the next one. That's why having a reliable business line is so important, and that's why you need OpenPhone. OpenPhone is the #1 business phone system that helps you streamline and scale customer communication, all from an app on your phone or computer. Like, if you juggle 2 phones to keep business and personal calls separate, OpenPhone can solve that instantly. Your whole team can share one number and respond to customers like it's a shared inbox. There's no need to be like, hey, who's going to handle this call? And they have an AI agent to handle after-hours calls for you, answer common questions, and capture leads so you never miss a customer again. Right now, OpenPhone is offering our listeners 20% off your first 6 months at openphone.com/LockedOnMLB. That's OpenPhone, OpenPhone.com/LockedOnMLB. And if you have existing numbers with another service, OpenPhone will port them over at no extra charge, because OpenPhone means no missed calls, no missed customers. So, Jake, Spencer Schwellenbach, a little bit of a rough one here. 4 earned runs, 6 hits in 7 innings. And he gave up 10 hard hit balls, and it really felt like he struggled with the trio of Juan Soto, Pete Alonso, and Jeff McNeil. Those 3 guys just they combined for 5 hits, including a home run and a walk, only struck out 1 time, scored 2 runs, just were crushing balls. They had 10 hard hit balls, just the 3 of them together. There's a couple things. I think the fastball was a little bit iffy. What did you see from Schwellenbach in this one that kind of would help explain why he struggled so much compared to what he's done recently?
Yeah, I mean, the fastball velocity is the first thing you look at. I mean, when he's been on this run here lately, we've seen the fastball velocity tick up. It was actually down in this one, and certainly not going to make excuses for him, but he got an hour rain delay. You know, that can be tough on a starting pitcher trying to, know when they get warm and get out there, and maybe that had some effect on it. It's also a really good Mets offense, and, they put some good swings on it. And like you said, a lot of hard hits in this one. Of those 10 hard hit balls, only 2 of them had a negative launch angle. Yeah. So it's like, balls. Yeah, so it's a lot of balls that were squared up and hit hard. So they got after him. And still at the end of all that, if that bloop gets caught, he had 22 whiffs in this one, a 39% called strike plus whip percentage. Those are both just fantastic numbers. So, I mean, at the end of the day, I know it's not typically the line we expect from Schwellenbach, but it's still 7 innings, 4 earned, 8 strikeouts. I mean, it's still a pretty solid outing. And while the bloop double does hurt that scored 2, I think if you look back at that inning, what really is going to frustrate him is that he was up 0-2 on Francisco Alvarez and then eventually walked him. Yep. And that just, it's not something we see from Schwellenbach. So again, I think he was just a little bit off tonight. Maybe the rain delay kind of affected him a little bit in getting loose and all of that. The fastball velo wasn't quite where we've seen it here lately. It was still good and it's still, plenty for him, but he didn't seem to have that extra oomph that we've seen out of him here as of late. And again, at the end of the day, a bloop double really cost him. And outside of that, he still went 7 innings and only gave up 4 earned and gave the offense a chance to come back.
Yeah. And, we like to, or I guess people like to criticize Brian Snitker when the bullpen doesn't do well. I thought Snitker did a really good job of navigating the bullpen today. Pierce Johnson in the 8th, Dylan Lee in the 9th, and then Raisel Iglesias in the 10th. And I thought Iglesias specifically looked to be really comfortable, did a great job, had another kind of vintage Iglesias inning where what was it? He threw something like 11 pitches, almost all of them were strikes, and just took care of it. Luis Angel Acuna never got off of second base. And I know that we don't have a set closer. Dylan Lee's been the guy you've gone to a lot in the 9th, both, in and out of save situations. But it feels like saving Iglesias and sitting him out for the 10th instead of the 8th was a really good move here. And I think we need to give Snit some props for navigating through the bullpen correctly.
Yeah, no, I thought it was the right decision there too. Of course, had they tied it up, then probably you do, go with Iglesias there in the 8th inning instead of Pierce Johnson. Who knows? I really don't know what Iggy's role is at this point. But because you were down 3 runs at that point, I think it made sense going with Pierce Johnson in that one. But I thought, Dylan Lee, he obviously got the help there from Ronald, but otherwise thought he was good. Came back after that and got a big strikeout. And then Iggy, I thought he looked really good in this one too. So, you get him going. I mean, he is the key. You get Iglesias going again. You feel pretty good about Dylan Lee. And obviously you got Pierce Johnson there too. You start to feel a little bit better about your bullpen situation. Still need some help out there, no doubt.
Yeah, not done.
But if Iggy can, get back to being Iglesias, and he certainly looked like it in this outing, would be huge.
Yeah. All right. So to look forward a little bit, now you're in a situation, Chris Sale goes on Wednesday because you pushed him out of that Rockies series. And again, you didn't lose on Sunday because of Chris Sale not being there. Grant Holmes had a ton of strikeouts. Moving Chris Sale to Wednesday against Paul Blackburn, who has made 1 start and 2 relief appearances since coming back, 6.75 ERA. He's pitched less than 10 innings on the year. It feels like you have the advantage here. And then Thursday's the one where it's Clay Holmes, who's been very good, versus Spencer Strider, who was very good last time out, but it was also the Rockies. How big is winning game 1 towards your hopes of being able to win the series and continue making up ground in the wild card?
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously winning game 1 of any series is huge, but when you do it and then you have Chris Sale going the next day against, a guy that really hasn't even been starting for them here, hasn't been starting for them. He's not going to be able to go long, or at least you hope not, if this Braves lineup can.
Please don't jinx it, Jake.
Yeah, if they can do something in those first 5 innings there and hopefully get to Paul Blackburn and Chris Sale pitches the way he's been pitching, on paper, this is the one that you would have circled coming in, right? You look at that matchup, and on paper, you would have said, this is where the Braves have to win. And they do. Again, you push Chris Sale back, and as you mentioned, that's not why they lost on Sunday, but you push him back to start this game because you wanted to give you the better chance of beating a good team in the Mets. Well, now you have to get it done. I mean, you win game 1 of this series, you've got to get it done. You got the pitching matchup that you wanted, and it's all just going to be on that Braves offense to, get to Paul Blackburn, get into the bottom of their bullpen early, middle, late, just keep adding on and give Chris Sale all the run support you can have. You cannot sit back. And that was my frustration on Sunday. I'm not going to get into that again, but you won the first 2 games. You pushed your starter back. You should have been able to win with Grant Holmes, but then the offense they relaxed, and you cannot relax against any team, even a team like the Rockies, but especially not against a team like the Mets. It's a great win. You got your ace going in the next game, but you have to stay focused and you have to lock in and get it done.
Again, Braves win 5-4 in 10 innings over the Mets. Walk them off thanks to an Austin Riley sac fly that scores Luke Williams from third after he made a masterful move to not get thrown out on what he thought was a completely passed ball that was right Francisco Alvarez. We'll be back tomorrow to break down that, or I guess I'll be back tomorrow to break down game 2. Again, Chris Sale versus Paul Blackburn. Hopefully the normal starting time, rain doesn't impact this one. Do us a favor. If you're listening on audio, leave a 5-star review with some kind words, Apple, Spotify, YouTube Music. If you're watching on YouTube, subscribe to both Locked On Braves and Locked On Sports Atlanta. Hit the notification bell so you get Jake, Tanitra, everybody else talking about all of your Atlanta sports teams each and every day. For Jake Mastroianni, I'm Lindsay Crosby. This has been the Braves Postcast.